Hey, what's going on, guys? Lang here, and I'm back again with another video. And this is actually kind of crazy, I was playing Last of Us Part 1, and I was like, yo, I haven't made a video in 3 years. Let me just go out and do one on the Last of Us franchise as a whole, because I have a lot to say about The Last of Us, and it's not what it was, I would say. You know what I mean? Like, Part 1 is amazing, don't get me wrong. That's always going to be my favorite game out of the Last of Us franchise. I want to talk about that, the TV show today, and definitely Part 2 as well. Because it seems like Part 2, a lot of people have kind of changed their minds on, which is kind of cool. I definitely changed my mind on it. I mean, I even took down my old videos and such like that many years ago. I mean, it kind of did decent on my channel, too, which is kind of funny, because I'm a really small channel. I really don't care, like, what I post and what I say, really. But, it's weird to me, because the community now is definitely flipped on The Last of Us. I mean, a lot of people like the TV show. I personally hate it. I think it's literally disgusting what they did to Joel in general. I mean, especially Ellie's character, she's such garbage now. It's just like, I don't know how anybody can even fathom that show. I don't know. We're gonna get into that. We'll go down the line, but I want to talk about Part 1 first, because Part 1 is probably the best game out of the whole entire franchise. And I think they are making Part 3 at the moment. It seems like it's coming out in the next probably 3 to 4 years, I would say. I know they're working on 2 games, but a lot of people don't want a Part 3. Some people do. I would like to see a Part 3 personally, just to get, Ellie's redemption, I guess, arc back at this point, because we don't know what the hell is going to happen. I mean, sure, it's probably Abby's going to be in there somehow. This is going to be like a whole Alan Wake 2 type scenario. I'm going to talk about that game too eventually in another video, but the characters is something that we care about mostly. You know what I'm talking about? Like Joel and Ellie. And that's something I think they definitely fucked up with in Part 2, is that they didn't give us what we wanted, and it's just, at that point, is it just Neil Druckmann being a cuck and be like, oh, these are our characters type of scenario? Because I felt like there's so much more left for those two. I mean, sure, I know they diverged both characters, but I felt like there was so much left. I mean, especially in that 5-year period. I don't know. I think that's why they have to do something with this franchise, man. It just, when we go back and play Part 1, for example, playing it makes it so special, right? You have the fun weapons, you have the great gameplay, you have by the way, the phenomenal story. Like, let me even get started on that. You have the Boston QZ when you start off, right, after you lose Sarah and such. And it never stops going. And that's what I love about The Last of Us Part 1 as well. Especially that everything is detailed, too. Especially in Part 1. I don't know if you guys played Part 1. I mean, I wouldn't really recommend to buy it, but, I mean, if it's on sale for like $20, $30, sometimes it is on the PlayStation Store. I mean, it's worth it at that price, but man, it looks phenomenal. But just going through, like, Boston looks beautiful, or even Pittsburgh, which is really cool. It's my favorite part of the game. And it's just, that story, Part 1, was so special. Just Joel, losing his daughter in the beginning, and then everybody already knows all this stuff, but just him protecting Ellie, and then that becoming his, like, surrogate daughter in a way by the end of the game. Which was awesome, right? Like, you had the cannibals and everything like that. You went through David. And the game never stopped. The pacing was perfect. It constantly had story. Like, the story just never stopped growing in that, too. I would say in that regard. And I know it's like a nostalgia factor, because I haven't played this game in years. And I was like, oh, I forgot about Part 1. We could play that again. Because I want to get that Platinum Trophy eventually. Some of the things are still glitched out. It seems like I couldn't get, like, some of the Ellie jokes to pop up. Random stuff still. It just seems like, easy little fixes that never got fixed from the original game, because that was always a big problem with the remastered version of it. But moving on to the next thing, I really want to talk about a TV show now a little bit, because I was just, giving my little bit of depth on Part 1, but it's amazing, I can still never complain about Part 1 ever to this day. I mean, I kind of want to go back and play it again. That's how I feel right now. I kind of want to play Part 2. I'm thinking that I might even make a video on Part 2 after I'm done with it, because I don't think I even have a single video on Part 2 on my channel about me discussing afterwards, because alright, I want to talk about a little what I did years ago. So pretty much, I didn't know what was going on with gaming then, I would say, as much. I mean, I was online all the time, more than I am now. I mean, I deleted all my social medias in the last few years, but I would say that I was a big fan of Part 2 in the beginning, and then I saw what was really going on. I played the game the second time, and I was like, holy shit, this is fucking garbage. Just, like, straight up. That's how I felt about Part 2 as we're getting into this. It's just that, one, the story was just, that was the main problem for everybody, right? And it's just, you could tell obviously it was fucking woke. I don't give a fuck what you have to say about that. I'm just gonna give my honest opinion. Yes, it's in the fucking game, and the game is garbage for one of those reasons, right? We can discuss that. You go, you're big, whatever the fuck you want to call me. I don't give a fuck, first off. Because that's a problem with me personally. I don't care about that shit pretty much, like, what I'm talking about here. Like, I'm not trying to get political at all in this video, but I have to kind of discuss it. I mean, nobody cared about that point of the game. Like, nobody cared that Ellie was gay and such. Everybody knew that from 14, when the DLC came out. What was that, February of 2014, if I remember correctly? Whenever the fuck Left Behind came out. But it's just, that was one of the main problems, right? Killing Joel off in a disgusting way was probably the biggest one for everybody. Like especially when Abby comes in and just bashes his head in with a fucking golf club. Like, you know what I'm talking about here? It's just, it's ridiculous. Like, I want to go back and play this game and definitely give another review on it. I think personally to this day, it's about maybe a 6 out of 10 type game. I mean, I saw a really good review on Metacritic the other day, or Metacritic was it? I think it was. I was reading it just to see, because before I was making this video, I was like, all right, I haven't made a video in a few years. Let me go see what people are talking about Last of Us Part 2. And yeah, I saw somebody give it a 6 out of 10 saying, look, the story was shit. You had great gameplay, by the way. It's way better than the first game, the gameplay. The dodging mechanics really cool. The, what was it called? The army crawl, stuff like that. It's like basic stuff they add into the game that we've obviously seen in other games before, like maybe Metal Gear Solid and stuff, but it's really cool to add that note. I mean, the problem for me, right, for Part 2 was Abby more than anything else. Abby is so fucking annoying, it's not even funny. Like, all of her friends practically don't even like her. For some reason, Owen's like 50-50 with her. Like, her whole story arc, we did not need to know. You know what I'm talking about? I think if you just package The Last of Us 2 as cutting off Abby's part of the game, and then maybe getting our asses beat by Abby as Ellie, I think even then I would have been okay with that, you know what I mean? Maybe we could have, you know, we got some slices or some stab marks on Abby in that fight, and maybe she's chasing us down. I think that would have been better if we just stayed as Ellie. We got fucked up probably, right? And then, obviously, I wish Tommy never got hurt as well. But I mean, they could even have had that DLC into the game, which would have been really cool if you really think about that. If we just played as Tommy murdering everybody through Seattle, he could have like 3 days as well, or 2 days. And that's my problem with this part right here. I know we're talking about, I'm rambling a little bit too, but Abby literally ruined the game for everybody. I mean, we played as her in the first 25 minutes of the game, too, in the prologue. It's like, why? Like, we don't care about this mysterious woman in Owen, you know what I mean? And I don't know if this is like Neil Druckmann on a high horse. He even had his own character in there. He was Owen, by the way, which is just like really fucking nuts, in my opinion. It's just, he's an asshole anyway, Neil Druckmann. I just understand his creativity is not there, in my personal opinion, as much as I think Bruce Straley was. I think Bruce Straley is the reason why Part 1 was so fucking good, especially even bits of Uncharted 4. Well, Uncharted 4 is a really good game as well, they both worked on, but I think Straley is the one who carried him personally. It seems like he just forced Amy Hennig out of Naughty Dog and literally screwed up Naughty Dog as a whole now, because they have not released a game since, you know, 4 years ago, which is Part 2. I mean, they had the remaster come out, and then another remaster for Part 2 remaster, which is ridiculous that even came out, by the way. That should have just been free DLC. They should have put on the PS4 version of the game. Nothing was different. I mean, $10 is $10. Sure, you get, you know, that grounded mode or whatever the hell it's called, where you just survive against endless waves of the infected and people. But I want to talk about the ending as well really quickly. Is that it pissed everybody off, right? I feel like they should have had 2 endings. Now, originally, which I was reading on Reddit, I don't know if this is true, I don't really use Reddit all the time, but I read that supposedly Druckmann actually had the original storyline as Ellie killing Abby. I don't know if that's true, I'm probably wrong, maybe somebody's just saying that in a post, but most of the people wanted that to happen, and he said he didn't want that storyline to happen at the end of the game, Druckmann said, which is really weird to me that he wanted to get rid of the biggest part of the game. Now, personally, I think it would have been better if Ellie just killed Abby at the end. It would have made more sense, too. Sure, Lev was going to come back, supposedly, people were saying, but really, I think Ellie would have just taken Lev out, too, at that point. I mean, like, Lev's a terrible character. I could rant about Lev, but, I don't know, man. I just don't like the ending of The Last of Us Part 2 at all for that personal reason. Just Ellie killing how many people throughout the game? Maybe 150 people to 200 people we probably killed as Ellie, counting the infected. And then you're going to just go all the way from fucking Jackson back to, like, across the, you know, that wasn't that far, I guess you could say, from Wyoming to California. But she went from, like, you know what I'm talking about? She went from Wyoming to Seattle, murdered a bunch of people, came back home, fucked up, went back to California, and got her ass beat, lost her fingers, by the way, didn't kill her, and just lets her live because of some flashback of Joel. What the fuck was that? Like, you know what I mean? You played 25 hours of the story game. Like, the story mode itself is 25 hours, right? And that's if you're doing it fast, too, I think. It's like, what did I just play here? It's like, I just felt like I wasted money. And that's why a lot of people just, like, rant about Part 2, and it's just, guys, it's bad. I just don't know. I don't know. I just think, personally, it should never happen, that game. I mean, in my head, it doesn't even really exist sometimes. I'm just like, why? I mean, when I went back and played in Platinum 8 years ago, I was like, alright, the gameplay's super freaking fun. I mean, I have no problem at that point. I mean, other than that, the game's bad. I mean, there's nothing even exciting about it, you know what I mean? Like, the Seattle part was really cool. It opened up, like, day one as Ellie. Sure, that's probably the best part of the whole game, right? After Ellie's part, nothing. Like, I get so bored, I don't even sit there. I just usually have, like, a podcast playing, I think, when I was playing it then, when I was platinuming it. It's just, like, at this point, Part 3 better bring something back. I mean, there's a lot of rumors going around with Part 3 that it's going to be supposedly Ellie-based, which I hope it is. I mean, we're probably going to see Abby again somehow, some way, that maybe she comes back for her. I don't know. That's our problem now. I just hope that they don't really fuck it up here. But now I want to dive into the TV show, and, man, this really pissed me off, because I always wanted to see a Last of Us TV show or a movie. I was very excited about that back when I was, like, 13 years old, when I went to see it, because that's the first time I played this game. I was 13, and I was like, oh, I can't wait till, like, one day they'll do a TV show on this or something like that, or even a movie. I was like, oh, Hugh Jackman would be perfect for that, or even Jeffrey Dean Morgan, which plays Negan, my favorite character in The Walking Dead, by the way. But, man, I want to talk about the casting choices first for this game. I thought they were atrocious. I mean, sure, they got Bella Ramsey. I mean, she was in Game of Thrones. I'm like, didn't like that show personally. And I don't think she was that good as Ellie, by the way. They made Ellie an asshole in the TV show. I mean, especially with the part where Tess died. Like, she's like, oh, it was you and her's fault, instead of just, like, apologizing like she did in the game for, like, dragging Tess in there. And, like, Joel Luna is practically, I guess, his girlfriend in a way, but his friend. And it's just like, why are we going that route now? It's like, why are we changing Ellie's storyline? And then, like, the whole thing with the communist, what was her name? Oh, they totally race swapped Maria. Like, you know what I mean? It was just pretty much garbage after garbage in that TV show. And we had an obese person, like someone who's like 400 fucking pounds in like episode 8, and they weren't even terrified of Joel and Ellie. I'm like, what? I'm like, why? Maybe it was episode 7, but it's just like they're in a winter, and it's just like, what? It's like, how's there a fat fucking person this year? Like, it's 20 years in the apocalypse. You're telling me they just lived out there? Nothing happened there? Like, she just kept the weight, I guess? I mean, it just, nothing made sense in that show. You know what I'm talking about? I'm just like sitting there, I'm like, who even likes this show? Especially they changed the whole Pittsburgh storyline and made it in Kansas. And then they made, what's his name? Sam deaf. And it's like, okay, now we're just including everybody, the message. And it's like DEI everywhere, especially nowadays. We got to race swap every character. And it's just, it's getting on my nerves, I would say, more or less. It's like, main reason why I don't even watch television as much as I want to today. I mean, fuck, even though I didn't even notice about this in The Walking Dead, I know I'm rambling really quickly here. I'm going to talk about The Walking Dead for a quick second, is that I didn't even know that most of the cast, or even, like, the couples were, I guess, diverse. I don't really care for that shit. It doesn't bother me. But somebody brought it up in, like, one of the Reddit subreddits, I guess you would say. I was like, oh shit, I didn't even notice that. I've been watching The Walking Dead. I watched it all the way through from season 3 to season 11, and especially the spin-off shows that are pretty decent in my opinion. But I was just like, oh shit, I was like, I never even noticed that. Like, that doesn't bug me, right? I don't care for that shit. I don't even pay attention to race and such. I'm just like, alright, whatever, give me that storyline. But it's like, now when you're race swapping characters left and right, it kind of gets old. It's like, what are we doing here? It's like, does that really change anything? Is that really going to change someone else's mind? It's like, no, we like these certain characters because of their character traits and we relate to them. That's all we care about when we're looking at a story. It's not what they look like, it's how they act and how they act with the environment around them. So that was my main problem with The Last of Us TV show, I'd say, right there. I mean, the No Infected was a big thing as well. I think we only saw them for 3 to 4 episodes, if that, and there's like 9 episodes, and there's like a few episodes where we didn't see one infected. I'm just like, what the hell is going on here? It just seemed like it was really lazy as well, especially like all their clothes were brand new. I don't know if you guys saw this behind the scenes as well for part 2 that's going on, or I'm sorry, season 2 they're filming, and all their clothes look brand new. It's like, guys, there's no dirt on these characters after getting a fight. There's like, it's just bad. I don't think a lot of people even notice that. I mean, no one's afraid of Joel, by the way, in the TV show, and Joel in the TV show is such a bitch and a pussy, and it pissed me off to this day. I mean, this guy, pretty much, okay, you could probably argue back, because we don't really know what happens in that 20-year time period. Maybe Joel did try to kill himself, but it doesn't seem like he did, right? So in the TV show, he went to kill himself after what happened to Sarah. Okay, we get that. That's arguably fine. You could keep that in a storyline. But him was shooting his ear off, and then it just doesn't feel like Joel to me, you know what I mean? It feels like an impersonation. And Pedro Pascal, I think, is not a really good actor, and he's in everything nowadays. So it does ruin that factor as well, Joel. I think even Jeffrey Dean Morgan would have been fine, man. I mean, you could have signed him off for 2 years. I mean, sure, I know he plays Negan in The Walking Dead still, in Dead City, but I feel like he could have pulled off Joel a lot better. Maybe he wouldn't want to act in that, but my God, it was just what is going on here with Pedro Pascal? I mean, also, it just, I don't know. I'm pissed off with The Last of Us pretty much. They changed David into like a religious cult leader instead of a cannibal. I mean, they were still cannibals in the TV show, but nothing happened there. I gotta say, the best thing to happen to that TV show was the St. Mary's Hospital massacre. They nailed that, by the way. They actually killed it at the end. I was like, okay. It was only about 5 or maybe 4 minutes, I want to say it was, but it was worth it. I was like, you know what? After I was done watching this TV show a year ago, I was like, that's fine. They did well on this. I was like, I'll give them some credit for the last episode. Can't complain about it. The acting was a lot better than the last 7 episodes before that. The last 2 just killed it. But that's all I gotta say about The Last of Us, man. It's my first video back. Sorry if I'm rambling or I'm stuttering or anything like that. I just want to talk about The Last of Us series as a whole. I hope to see part 3, honest to God, in the next like 3 to 4 years. I hope it will succeed. I really do have hope for this franchise a little bit, just to end the series off. There's a lot of other stories they can delve into with The Last of Us universe, you know, if they really want to make it like The Walking Dead. I really don't want to see it like that, but it's a possibility they can go down. Other than that, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, all that shit. I haven't made a video in 3 years, so I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying. I'm just kind of nervous that we'll be back here today, but thank you for watching. Have a good day, alright? Stay classy.